Hey y'all, my name is Valerie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you 3 easy one-pot meals, or you can call them one skillet meals. These dinners are easy to make and there's not a lot of mess to clean up. I think you're really going to love these. Now let's go ahead and get started. This first recipe is a cheesy broccoli chicken orzo. I seen Julia Pacheco make this, and I've never cooked with orzo before, so I had to give it a try. I started out in my large Dutch oven. I added 2 tablespoons of oil and 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken that I cut into bite-sized pieces. Now I'm just adding in some seasonings. I added half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, and half a teaspoon of paprika. Now stir this until all that is coated in that seasoning. Then flip it over and let it cook until all that chicken is completely cooked through. I removed it to a separate plate, covered it with foil, and set it to the side. This was not in the recipe, but I decided to add in a couple tablespoons of butter before I added in that onion, and I added in about 1/2 of a diced onion. Let that saute for about 5 minutes until that onion starts to soften. Then I added in about a tablespoon of minced garlic and let that cook for about a minute. And I'll leave Julia's recipe linked in my description box below, along with any changes that I made to the recipe. Next, I added in 2½ cups of chicken broth, along with 1 cup of uncooked orzo. Stir that and be sure to scrape any bits off the bottom of the pot. Bring that to a boil, then drop it down to a simmer and let it simmer for a couple minutes. Then I added in 3 cups of fresh broccoli florets. Give that a stir. Then I covered this and let it simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes. And I did stir it occasionally just to make sure the orzo didn't stick. When that orzo was tender and most of the liquid was absorbed, I gave it a really good stir. Then I added in 4 ounces of cubed Velveeta cheese, 1 cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and half a cup of heavy cream. Then I stirred that until everything was well combined. And lastly, I added in that chicken I cooked up in the beginning. Then stir this and let it cook on low just until that cheese is completely melted. Then this dinner is ready to serve. I'm so glad I tried this one. We loved it. And my dad came down while I was cooking this night. He just lives next door. So I shared some with him and he thought it was delicious. I really think you're gonna love this one. This next recipe is a 1-pot baked ziti. To a large pot, add in 1 pound of Italian sausage. I just had this mild on hand, so that's what I used. I also added half a pound of ground beef, along with half a diced onion. Now chop this up and let it cook until that meat is cooked through. I would have used my meat chopper for this, but that sausage really gets stuck inside of it, so I just used my spatula. I got rid of that grease with a paper towel. Then I added in 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Stir that around and let it cook for about a minute or so, just until that garlic becomes fragrant. Next, I added in 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, undrained, a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, and 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I like this kind that comes in a tube, and I found this at Walmart. It's really convenient for recipes like this that only require a little bit. Now I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. It wasn't coming out fast enough, so I just had to take the lid off. 1 teaspoon of sugar, and this just cuts the acidity of the tomato sauce. And now 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I stirred this and let it simmer for 10 minutes. Then I added in 3 cups of uncooked ziti noodles, along with 1½ cups of water. Stir this and make sure all those noodles are submerged in that liquid. If you feel like you need to add a little more liquid, add a little more at a time. Now let this cook for about 10 minutes until those noodles are al dente, but just make sure to stir it often, just to make sure all those noodles are cooked through. Then I turned the heat off and added on 1/3 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese and 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella cheese. Stir that up until that cheese is well incorporated. I'm using 8 ounces of the ricotta cheese, and I'm just dropping it by small spoonful sized dollops over the top. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I sprinkled the top with a little more Italian seasoning. I did forget to mention, make sure your skillet is oven safe, because this goes into the oven under the broiler for just a couple minutes until that cheese on top is melted. I served this with garlic bread and made us up a simple side salad. This dinner was so good. I love the flavor of the sausage, and it was nice and cheesy and delicious. I really hope you give it a try. This was an easy one-pot meal. I decided to step out of my comfort zone and try this cashew chicken stir fry. In a large skillet, I have 1 tablespoon of oil and 1 pound of boneless skinless chicken cut into bite-sized pieces. I let this cook until that chicken was cooked through. You can season this to taste with salt and pepper. Now remove it to a separate plate, cover it with foil, and set it to the side. Now add your chopped veggies to the skillet. I added 2 cups of fresh broccoli florets, a red bell pepper, an orange bell pepper, and a 1/2 cup of carrots that I julienned. Add in another tablespoon of oil. Stir those up and let them saute for a little bit. And this recipe called for sugar snap peas. I didn't have any on hand, so I sprinkled over about a 1/2 can of green beans. I love green beans, but you can totally omit those if you want. Now I'm moving over to the counter to make up a quick sauce for this. I started with 1/4 cup of natural peanut butter. I like the Crazy Richards brand. Next, add in 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, and you can use the low sodium kind if you prefer. Instead of honey, I added 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And you don't want to skip this. I added 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil and 1 tablespoon of fresh grated ginger. Speaking of, I gotta get me a new grater. Stir this until it is all well combined. Now grab that sauce and head back over to the stovetop. First, I added in 1½ teaspoons of minced garlic. Also, 3 tablespoons of water or chicken broth that I was supposed to add to the sauce. Now I'm adding in that cooked chicken. Give that a really good stir. Now add in about 1/3 cup of cashews. I get the kind that say halves and pieces. Now the most delicious part of this recipe, pour over that peanut sauce. Now stir this until everything is coated in that mixture. Turn the heat down and let this simmer until that sauce thickens. Then this is ready to serve. You can serve this over rice or just do like I did and serve it as is. I topped mine with some chopped green onions, and this was absolutely delicious. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and click into this playlist right here. Don't forget to subscribe down below. It's completely free. That way you don't miss out on any future videos, and I will see you in the next one.